when you look at all these various connections that tie into what essentially is, it seems to be an international sort of private intelligence network, right?
Like an
That's very
octopus
covert and clandestine in nature. Dude,
with many arms.
100%, man. But
Yeah.
but what is so astonishing about the New Mexico compound that you had mentioned is the fact that the five defendants was Abdul Ghani Wahaj was the original, right? And then Wahaj was the father. And so basically a boy's remains were found at this compound and police said that although it is not yet clear, this is of course original accounting of the case, whether the remains are those of 4-year-old Abdul Ghani, and then later of course it's confirmed that it was the 4-year-old Abdul Ghani, but essentially this child Abdul Ghani Wahaj was 4 years old and found dead at this compound, and he was apparently kidnapped by his father Suraj Wahaj. And so 5 defendants were involved in this case. And Wahaj, his sisters, Haraj Wahaj and Subhana Wahaj, who are thought to be the children's mothers. And then Lucas Morton and Janie LaVille were each arraigned in New Mexico as well, and in a courtroom on 11 counts of child abuse related to the neglect and abuse of the children. But it gets very interesting because what you come to find out is that the 5 who pled not guilty, of course, they were given originally a public defender, and then all of a sudden, some strange, just of course, the public defender doesn't stand up, and it seems to have been some sort of federal involvement in what also tends to always fit this pattern of the federal cover up, right? And man, that falls perfectly in place with the Delphi murders that I've just covered recently with William Ramsey, which will blow your mind because there's all these occult connotations to Odinism and effectively
They off the
the
fucking Fed. Like that's the biggest thing that stands out about that. They
yeah,
off the Fed in that story. The Delphi murders. A Fed got offed and the Fed stepped away and just let it fly. And
around the
that's where it
exact
went.
same time.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
really all you need to know about the Delphi stories. Be like, what the hell? Like, a Fed got offed, and then they just were like, oh, I guess we got to leave that be. Then
Now,
you're like,
what
what?
is the
What is going on
Delphi
here?
story?
You haven't heard of the Delphi murders,
No.
brother? This is actually relevant, and it is very much something that is current as well. Because if you consider Richard Allen, who is the alleged perpetrator, because what the fundamental basics of the case are, there were murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. All right. And this all occurred in Delphi, Indiana. And it's known now as the Delphi murders. And it occurred February 13th, 2017. And so essentially their bodies, they're discovered near the Mononhai Bridge Trail, part of the Delphi Historic Trails. And they disappeared on the 13th, but their bodies were found on the 14th on Valentine's Day. So consider again the occult connotation of Delphi itself. I see that as no way it's a coincidence, especially considering how their bodies are found essentially staged in a ritualistic neo-pagan ritual. It will essentially what had happened is that it got all this prominent coverage at the time because it kind of like a lot of the true crime aficionados were very much attracted to this case, and
This
it
is
was
the one.
because there was
Wait, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is the one
you're
where
good, buddy.
they have a video of him, right? There's like a little bit
Exactly,
of yeah.
bro.
There's a
Dude on a
little bit of
bridge.
video of
Yeah.
him. Yeah. Okay, I know what it is.
100%. Yeah, it was a Snapchat video that went viral because one of the
We
girls,
should probably play it because I mean that's gonna be
yeah,
meaningful in here in a minute, especially when it comes into
no
what
doubt.
Richard Allen, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Down the hill, he says allegedly. And it's like a few seconds. It's like in reality, I think it was a 48-second video, and we only got a few second footage in totality that was publicly available. Um, but yeah, my God, like what essentially I think what should be understood first of all is how I was kind of introduced to this because Jose and I we had William Ramsey on and he introduced me to the Hosanna Church scandal. All right. And I was unaware that that was kind of like the influence, kind of a very, primary influencing factor to the first original season of True Detective, right, with
Hmm.
McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, and I felt like that first season was one of the standalone, one of the greatest television series I've ever watched in my life. And I felt like it kind of
Phenomenal.
introduced, right? And it kind of introduced just the valuable conceptual framework that's so necessary to understand when
And
you're
it was before like a lot of PizzaGate stuff came out.
Yeah.
So afterwards, you kind of go back, you see all this symbolism, you see all this stuff. You know, it's super creepy.
Look, here's the video. Here's the video that it's an old man, right? It's this one, right?
Yep.
Ah, crap.
So crazy, dude. I would kill this guy if it was my daughter. I would find him and kill him.
They're not playing.
To skip ahead, it's Richard Allen is the one a lot of people think it is, or is that the one that's the patsy? I forget.
Well,
There's the one that
that's
looks
the
a lot
police
like
patsy
him
for sure.
that had Odinist
working.
connections, and
It doesn't let you
was a
play it. Don't
pedo.
worry about.
So like the pedo one, he looks just like the video. He's a pedo, has Odinist connections, but then they're focused on the other guy. I forget the names, if Richard Allen's a patsy or if he's the pedo.
Yeah, Richard Allen is, in my mind, and I believe there's enough evidence as far as once you go into the memorandum, there's a 126-page memorandum that explains all of this in detail. And I believe I know the names of the individual perpetrators who were involved. And I also think I know. Go ahead and play it with sound. If
Hold
it
on.
has
So
sound.
what are we watching right now?
So
One of the girls captured on her phone a video of the attacker. That was one of the last things they found on the phone.
it was a
Suspect. A man
Snapchat
known-
post.
Hold on. So this is her video, and he's walking towards them.
Yeah,
He's
it's like
walking
this
towards
girl's.
them,
Yeah,
Man,
the-
I would
yeah.
kill this motherfucker.
Imagine there's these two girls on a bridge and they see a creepy man coming at them. So their first instinct is let me catch it on Snapchat, and then they capture it and then they're gone. That's the last thing they got
Explain
of the
how
girls.
he enhanced the video, adjusting color, size, angle, and more to create a usable image for investigators. In fact, one of the women who was on the trail that day told jurors, "I immediately knew when I saw that photo, that was the man I saw on the bridge." She and two other women who say they saw Bridge Guy on the trails just before the murders testified Tuesday afternoon. All of them described Bridge Guy in much the same way: larger or taller, in his 20s or 30s, muscular, with a boyish or youthful appearance. And some said he had brown, poofy hair. But those descriptions do not match Richard Allen's, who is not tall or muscular and was in his mid-40s at the time of the murders. Also today, jurors saw...
Dude, no. Here's the issue here. There are two sketches of the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator. All right. One of them looks like Justin Bieber, like when he was young, right? And essentially what you have to understand is this is in the framework of the context of this Snapchat profile that goes by Anthony_shots, and his real name was Kagan Klein. All right. And this motherfucker is spending 40 years in the penitentiary for child pornography now after the fact. So his home was raided by the feds within 3 days of the Delphi murders. All right. And that's another thing that's very important. And what I think, dude, and what I think this proves what this proves to be is some sort of modern day procurement method that's been sophisticated to where it's very much kind of like within the 76409A sort of digital grooming sort of framework, right? And so they're utilizing Snapchat and Instagram to seduce young girls into providing their addresses and pictures of themselves. I'm telling you. And so this individual, I believe, was just one of I think he was the procurement method for the ritual murder by the Villander group. That's what I believe occurred.
So they get a
because-
cute guy to get these young girls to show
Well,
up.
What's crazy?
I'll
You look
kill
up Kagan
everybody.
Klein. Kagan Klein looks like it's like that Jimmy Savile effect. You pull up the picture, you're like, that motherfucker did it. Right? Like you're like 100%. And so you pull up the picture, and there's something else that's very important to understand. He had also, there were other girls that he had this profile Kagan Klein was behind, the Anthony_shots. He was using a picture of a fake picture of a young male model who resembled Justin Bieber. It was a real person. And the feds and investigators later, officially confirmed that it was not this individual behind the Snapchat profile. It was the Kagan Klein. And what had happened was he had poached those pictures, put them on his Snapchat profile to lure in the young girls. And then he was also providing like this false lifestyle that he was, pushing to the public, which was also a seduction aspect of luring them in. And that was, of course, like he had exotic cars and he had, he was living this, very wealthy lifestyle is essentially what he was portraying. And it was just another way to lure them in. And so what's very interesting is that one of the girls affiliated with that Anthony underscore shots profile had, within 24 hours of providing her address to that account, a man in a mask appeared outside of her bedroom window.
What?
Yes. So what I think potentially could have happened is that they were lured to the Monon High Bridge Trail by the Anthony underscore shots Snapchat profile. And the reason that she was on Snapchat taking that video was maybe even, hey, we're here at the meeting place, that who knows, right? But that's a potential reality that we have to at least consider, as far as I'm concerned, especially after reading through the court documents and the memorandum itself and understanding what had really happened to the defense that were attempting to represent Richard Allen, the alleged perpetrator, which that whole thing, absolutely not when it comes to his guilt, right?
So they're both in jail, but the one guy isn't in jail for this. He's in jail for kiddie porn.
Exactly. Unrelated, allegedly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's crazy. But Jose, you remember you had mentioned the federal investigator who had been effectively executed.
Yes.
And basically, ooh, I'm just like throwing all this shit at you, brother. I'm sorry, man. It's so
this is fired. I mean, sad fire,
right.
As a dad who has daughters, I just want to kill all these people.
Right. Is there somewhere I can send a tweet to you guys so you can pull up a picture of who I believe to potentially be?
Do you have a photo of it?
You could also just share it from your screen.
You can also share it from your screen.
Okay.
Yeah,
just what Johnny
usually
right there.
A little sidebar. You mentioned like accelerationism there, and like kind of the 09A 764, and how they're like, kind of how they're attracting children. I don't know if you guys saw the latest shooting. I mean, I guess it was like one kid and himself. It's all they ended up doing. They released the manifesto recently. I don't know if you guys have gone down. You guys, I believe, have had BX on before, so you've talked about accelerationism in like 09A and 764, I believe.
I haven't had. No.
Oh, I thought you had. Okay, whatever. Maybe you had. I'd recommend you having her on for this topic. But
let's go.
Yeah, this guy, the latest shooter looks like he might be coming from like an accelerationist bent. You read that manifesto that just dropped, and it really is just like almost incomprehensible. It's literally just like almost written in a way just to offend, and it's just kind of ridiculous. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm someone I'm one of the Tower Gang guys, so I'm not one who gets offended.
I love
easily.
Tower Gang.
So I'm just saying, like, it literally is just saying stuff just with the intent to offend. You can read it. I mean, I don't know if you want to read it. It literally drops the N-bomb, like literally probably every 10
what
words.
are you trying to get me rock hard? Listen.
Yeah, right. I mean, get you bricked up, dog.
So hold on. So what is the accelerant? Tell me about this, because you're saying things that I haven't heard before. Let me hear about this.
Accelerationism. Like I said, this is definitely more BX's realm. This is what the kind of where she specialized. But this is just been this thing, kind of a methodology, I guess would be a way to put it, that's kind of been moving with certain circles. It runs a lot in like Satanism type online. It's like a young Zoomer type of thing is kind of the vibe. But the idea is just to kind of accelerationism. It's just to make things worse. So supposedly these people have been infiltrating all different sorts of groups and without, absent ideology. The idea being like it's not like they're like, oh, we're going to push all these causes on the left because we like the left, or no, like they're just pushing anything that will accelerate, that will push. Like they're going to be the guys that like, hey, we're going to try to somehow, whatever way we can, whether it be send people or aggravate the situation online. We're going to aggravate the January 6th situation. We're going to aggravate a BLM.
Yeah, I've watched your video on this.
Yeah.
I've watched her do videos on it.
Mm-hmm.
For the purpose, what is she saying the purpose is?
It's just, I guess, disaffect. I mean, obviously she may have different things, but I would guess probably disaffected young
Chaos, just
people,
as
some of the
much chaos as possible.
Yeah, a lot of these are disaffected young kids, and it's kind of this hurt people thing, especially with like the 09A 764 thing. Like the 764 is literally, as Austin was mentioning, it's this online group of kids that's like got Satanism aesthetic, and to some extent it might actually be legit. It's in the idea is that these are young kids that are on, like, I don't know, Roblox or all the different. I mean, I'm not really a tech savvy guy. I don't know the different things. There are all these different chat rooms that the kids hang out on, and then they will get them, or these say like self-harm type chat rooms or whatever. They'll find people like young girls are depressed or whatever. They'll say, oh, I'm here for you. Like, oh, you should cut yourself. You should cut my name on you. And then then now it's like, oh, now I have a photo of you where you cut yourself. I mean, it'd be a real shame if your dad found about this. You should send me more. And so then now it's like kind of this tumble gets worse. And what you got to think, though, this is generational. So like this has been going on for a while. So the sad thing about this situation, you see all these arrests that have been coming in recently for a lot of these 764 guys. A lot of them are in like the 17 to early 20 range or whatever. So they're just young adults. And so they kind of came up in this. So they were like 12, 13, 14 at one point. And they likely probably had someone who did something similar to them. And then they did the same thing. So it's kind of this, I don't know what I struggle to wrap my head around that kind of desperation or hopelessness. I mean, luckily, I guess.
Have you seen any of the videos of like on YouTube where they catch a predator? Like it's some of them, like, I mean, obviously they're piece of shits, but you kind of like, oh, dude, this guy fucking, he's young. Like you're like, damn, this fool, they'll catch like a 21-year-old, which is still a piece of shit, but it's not like, yo, go, yeah, you're right, Johnny, to death. But you just watch the video and sometimes you're like, man, and then it just
they seem autistic.
Yeah,
they seem like so many of these guys that are being caught, like at a Walmart. Like one dude wasn't. The weirdest one I ever saw was this little gay twink guy who's trying to meet up with like some underage, and his parents drove him there. It was like the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's so strange.
It's so strange, and he was like super defiant. Like he had no clue how deep he was in trouble, and he was just.
What was the age gap? What was it? Was it like a significant? Was he like 19?
Like I think the kid that they were role playing as was like 15, and this kid looked like he was maybe 23, 20.
That's not cool. Yeah.
But the thing was, like, this kid got caught and he was so defiant. It was just like, this is a generation that's never felt punishment. They don't understand that, like, you can't just emotionally force your way out of situations, and it was just very weird. So I watch all these guys that get busted by these pedo hunters, and I and again, like Xavier said, fuck these guys, but they do seem like they're on the spectrum and they have no clue what how to interact with people normally.
Like they're still trying to them. Like they're still trying to get away with it when they know they're fucked, and they're still kind of like, well, I didn't really send that out, and they're like, dude, he has all the proof.
But it's even like they just are so socially awkward.
No, they have a problem. I mean, it's a problem.
I mean, to be fair, how do you navigate that situation socially? How do you not be awkward?
Dude, you see guys that know that are listen. This is not saying we gotta forgive them. I'm not saying that at all. I think these guys are like, I will murk these motherfuckers. But what I'm saying is they seem to be very deep on the spectrum of not having social etiquette. Whereas there are those guys who just are pieces of shit. Like there's so many guys that you think are pedos, and they just have that aura of like they can't talk to adult women. They're such pieces of shit, right? They just can't do it. So they're just pieces of shit. And these guys that get busted, they're pieces of shit. I'm just saying they seem to be on the spectrum. They seem to have zero social etiquette or skills or anything like that. Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Makes them a very vulnerable target when it comes to a lot of this. Like, honestly, when I was doing the Omar Mateen episode, what I realized was that Omar Mateen, James Wesley Howe, Michael Sanford specifically, right, and all these individuals. He's allegedly not allegedly, he is the kid from the UK on the spectrum, autistic. He was lured into this radicalization ideological pipeline right online. He was targeted specifically because of his vulnerabilities. And then also, what inevitably took place is that he's lured down to the Treasure Island Hotel and Casino Resort in Vegas. And this is in 2016. This is during the election year, right? Between Hillary and Trump. And it's during a Trump campaign rally, campaign event. He's having this at the Treasure Island, I believe, the Treasure Island Resort Casino. And essentially what happens is this Michael Sanford, young kid from the UK who's on the spectrum, it attempts to grab the service revolver of one of the Metropolitan Police in Vegas and use it to assassinate Donald Trump.
People don't realize it, but those are free. Those are free, guys. You can take
free.
The service revolver. But yeah, so he grabs
crazy.
it, he gets wrestled to the ground, and what he tells the authorities is that he was grabbing the service revolver in an attempt to assassinate Donald Trump. And in my mind, you know, that I was, first of all, I was unaware that ever even took place. I didn't even know that happened. And until I was doing the research and investigating the Omar Mateen Pulse nightclub shooting. Because Omar Mateen, if you listen to the whole police recording, he's talking to this hostage negotiator effectively because he's keeping hostages locked in the bathroom in the Pulse nightclub. And he's telling them about additional shooters on buildings outside. And oh yes, it's amazing because honestly, what James Wesley Howell, who at the very same day, okay, in 2016, when Omar Mateen lights up the Pulse nightclub, James Wesley Howell drives over to the Los Angeles Pride Parade for the LGBTQ community with an arsenal in his truck and pipe bombs ready to set.
I remember
right?
that story.
Yeah, man. So he gets apprehended, right? And you know what happens when James Wesley Howell is apprehended? He tells this woman who is, and by the way, that if you didn't know, Omar Mateen has this glowing background, entirely compromised as far as his family is concerned. Siddiqui Mateen, his father.
Yeah.
You look into that, brother, and you just
Pictures with Obama, right?
Oh, he was at the Clinton rally, not far away, as close as possible to the Pulse nightclub shooting, just after the event, holding a Hillary Clinton campaign sign in support of her on the camera, positioned on the camera behind her in those spots where it's very obviously, been arranged seating, right? And there's a reason for this. And what is so strange is that he even gets interviewed by local media after the fucking campaign rally. And he gives this glowing statement about how much Donald Trump is this dangerous threat to the domestic United States, and that Hillary Clinton is really the plausible alternative. And then even mentions gun legislation, which instantly should raise red flags, especially when
100%.
It's a McVeigh parallel all the way, dude. Like, this is what it feels like.
Was really weird because do you guys remember like the footage from the local news where like somebody was carrying somebody and they were like he's dead or he's wounded, and then like they catch him setting him down, they both walk off. It's like the weirdest shit. And then because there was this whole time where like shooting was just everywhere, and you remember there was one bar here in LA, it was a country bar. And this is when I start to go, okay, nonlinear warfare. They're trying to cause us to fight with each other by giving us enough stuff for both times. And you remember when they say, oh, we got footage from inside the bar, and then you hear shots, but there's nobody in the bar.
Right.
There's nobody in the bar. And you're like, that's really weird, but that's done on purpose. So now the conspiracy theorists run off. Oh, dude, there's no one in the bar. This is a false flag. Then the gun safety people, they have their story. So we never come together ever. All these weird things. And if you even go back, another weird thing is the Pulse nightclub is connected to the Vegas shooting, in that the guy, the brother of the Vegas shooter that we're told, he has a PR agent.
Oh, yeah.
And the PR agent represents the gay bar.
Oh my God! Stop it! I
That's
did not know
wild.
that. I gotta write
Represents
this
the gay
down,
bar.
buddy.
And then right after that, he gets banged for kiddie porn.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That seemed to
Wasn't
be.
it him and his brother got busted for kiddie porn or some shit like that, or both of them, like posthumously? Or am I wrong there?
I know it was. I know it was his brother because what it seemed to be was that well first, man, let me pull it up because honestly I remember that it was he was definitely the brother was kind of introducing
It's
this
a weird
alternative
fucking
theory
interview, dude.
dude, it really was. It was very
Yeah.
strange. But what I remember specifically was that it seemed to kind of fall within the framework. But here's the issue that I have is that there was you know, Silkways airline, right, which is something that people are a little bit, you know, unaware of, which very much seems to have been you know, not only a weapons trafficking operation, but also a potential sex trafficking operation where they could have also been trafficking young children, right? Because there seems to have been
I think sorry not to cut you off, dude, but I think one thing we miss here is I think from that interview, I know I'm not assuming, obviously the audience hasn't watched it. I think there's an implication there. This is almost generational when it came here. Like, I don't know if you caught that,
oh
Austin,
yeah,
because there's a
yeah,
component of
remember
that
his
where
dad?
he's talking about borrowing extensive amount of money from his mother, and then also his mother was like linked up with, I forget what specifically, I don't remember what company it was offhand, but
Yeah.
potentially she was banging some CEO of some big fucking, like, I believe a military contract type corporation. So there was there's some weird shit going on there, and I want to say he did like patents for like aviation or some shit, something weird. But yeah, it's a weird story for sure. You got something,
Oh, no
Austin?
doubt, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have again, I'm trying to pull it up. I should have had it ready already, but here we go. Basically, I of course keep in mind that I always kind of like stage the context of the Vegas shooting in the framework of Operation Fast and Furious, which again, like that should always like raise the eyebrows of everyone in regard to the immigration crisis being exploited and leveraged by the intelligence community to sort of like, you know, introduce these again what seem to be these manufactured uh they're really just misconceptions because they attempt to seed these you know, deliberate psychological threats in the you know, in the subconscious mind. And so we're consistently, you look at like, let's say Sarah Adams and the Sean Ryan podcast are recent examples of this
Yeah,
where
I mean, we've been talking about that fool for a little while now, and again, reach is a great way to push this mockingbird thing. And again, we've his whole thing like I'm hiding, I'm going in hiding. You'll never get me. And then he's like fighting with people on the internet in the comment section. Like, I thought you were in hiding, dude. Now you're getting all butthurt because everyone's saying you're controlled op because you had this fucking PE teaching looking lesbian chick on telling people if they question 9/11, they're helping the terror. I mean, like, come on, dude. Come on.
dude
I did want to take a second to point out, this is something I thought maybe we get into, because I think one of the notes we sent over was like, year of the psyop and all this shit going on. I think there is something too with all these cool vet bro operator types or whatever the fuck they are. It seems to be that somehow they're inserting themselves into like every fucking conspiratorial narrative right now. We were talking about the fires earlier. I almost I was very close to tongue in cheek mentioning how, like, obviously it was Al Qaeda. That was something that was brought up on the Sean Ryan show recently as a possibility. And then you have the Matthew Livelsberger thing.
Dude?
wildfire jihad, Sam.
Yeah, not even kidding. Yeah. And then we have the Matthew Livelsberger fucking Cybertruck thing ties right into Stephen Greer and Disclosure Project shit too, because he goes into, so it's like it ties into the alien stuff, it ties into the drone stuff, it ties into China, ties into the fire stuff. Like they're just constantly, like, any way they can, they're just ham-fisting their way into the narrative right now. It just is the feeling that somehow all conspiracies loop back to, well, we fucking told you so. You know, I mean, like, that's what they all seem to be coming back to right now. Like, that's the feeling that everything, they're going to be like Nostradamus, and when something happens, they're going to be like, I fucking told you so. You know what I mean? Like that's the
Right.
feeling.
Well,
I'm
it
getting right
definitely
now.
gets weird that he present the problem with, let's say, the Cybertruck thing. It wasn't necessarily that the email wasn't real, because it ended up being real, even though we saw squiggly lines and all that stuff, which means he probably copied and pasted it to something. But it's the presenting of the information as, oh, this is China, when in
Yeah.
reality, it's like it's a Scooby-Doo every time. It's Scooby-Doo cartoon where we
100%.
pull the mask
It's a Fed that gave
off.
information to a Fed that was presented by another Fed who then
Yeah.
gave it to us.
Yeah, it's just
Dude.
it's always the intelligence agencies every
Brother.
time. Every